What is going on, guys? I'm Guns as always, and today we are going to talk about Dauntless Founders Alpha Access and if I think this game is worth the money, worth the hype, and worth the wait. So let's jump straight into it. First off, I want to talk about my concerns and disclaimers about this game. So I bought the Founders Pack. The Founders Pack that comes with three things. First off, you're playing for things that say Founders on them or unique Founder animation or Founder sigil. Okay, that's nice, whatever. That's, that's novelty stuff in the future, really, because you always end up using cosmetics or microtransactions things, or different sets of armor, or different sigils that look prettier or better later on. So, novelty stuff, really, honestly. What I do care about, though, is the three statuses you get for 90 days. You get Patron status, Champion status, and Style Hunter status for 90 days. Now, what do these three statuses do? Patron status stacks with other patron statuses, so players that have patron status, it stacks with them, and it gives you more out of Aether Cores, more items out of Aether Cores. What's an Aether Core? We'll get to that in a second. Champion status gives you more items out of your Aether Core alone, but does not stack with anybody else. So, Champion status just gives you more items out of your Aether Core. If you have Champion status, and then a bunch of people have Patron status, your Champion status and your Patron status both stack on an Aether Core, giving you roughly double the amount of items. So this makes the grind in general way easier. It's almost like an XP boost, and really that's fine. This game is not PvE or PvP based, it's a very PvE centric game, so this speeds up the grind process a little bit. And kind of, alleviate some of that so you can catch up with people or blaze through the early parts of the game. And it's totally fine, it's not level based, it's all gear based like Monster Hunter games are. Now, Style Hunter status is the one I'm particularly worried about spending $80 on the Founders Pack. So what the Style Hunter currently does is when you kill behemoths, you will get a Style Core. Inside the Style Core, currently, you only get sigil fragments. Now, a sigil fragment coming from a particular behemoth, or the beasts that you slay in this game, will basically give you a sigil to put on your flag of that particular behemoth, or styled in a manner of that particular behemoth. And that's all Style Hunter currently does. That is it. That's it. For paying $80, we do not get any platinum, which is the microtransaction currency. We get 0 platinum as it is. And I'm not 100% sure that we are or are not going to need platinum for these microtransactions. So, you also get Chroma Dust, which I'm not entirely sure what Chroma Dust is used for, as Transmog currently is in the game. Is not in the game. Now, here's why it is a concern. Because Transmog is currently not in the game, are we experiencing the full benefits of the Style Hunter? I do not know, because Transmog is not in the game. What things that could be dropping out of a Style Core are currently not dropping out of a Style Core? I don't know, because Transmog is not in the game. So what are we missing out on? Now, why does that matter? Well, it depends when they start the 90 days for the Founder status, Patron status, for the Champion status, Patron status, and Style Hunter status. If they start the 90 days at the technical full release of the game, then that's fine because it's been in effect since I started playing in the alpha, and my 90 days don't start until the full release of the game. Did this start in the alpha? Well, if it did, that's bad because you're going to add content later on. So essentially, I'm getting kind of gypped. I'm getting a little bit ripped off here. I'm only getting the partial effects of my Style Hunter status, of my Champion status, and of my Patron status, because not all the content's currently in the game. We're only dealing with 2 zones. There are 3 that we know of, possibly more than that. So, we're not really honestly getting the full effects of it. We're kind of getting a very much watered down with items missing from the Style Hunter, and of course not having access to the 3rd tier of the game. Now, why does this matter? Well, they do not plan on wiping between the alpha to the beta and the beta to the full release. They have stated, we do not want to wipe the game. Currently, we see no reason to wipe servers or characters from alpha to full release. They have said they will try to prevent from wiping from alpha to full release. They've also said, though, that because we are going from an alpha state to a full release, there may be some major changes, reasons, or developmental reasons to wipe the server, in which case we will have to, but we will try to prevent it. That's great and everything. I just want to make sure that I didn't pay $80 for a fancy sigil to go on a fucking flag. That's all. And a guild charter. That's, you know, it's kind of what I'm worried about, and that's basically it. Disclaimers aside for the Founders Pack, let's actually talk about the game now. Now that that's out of the way, what do I think about the game? Well, first off, the combat's fantastic. The combat's a lot of fun. It's a very varied, really varied in between the weapons. Lots of different styles to go with, lots of different abilities and things like that. The couple of things that worry me about the combat and the weapons in particular, though, is that two weapons, the hammer and the axe, do not have as many moves and do not feel as useful as the greatsword or the chain blades. They have less combos, they have less utility, and they have less abilities because of this. One other thing I'll say is that all the weapons in this game need more combos and need more depth added to them. All of the weapons in this game need it. Not just the hammer and not just the axe. But in particular, the axe and the hammer need to be brought up with the greatsword and the chain blades to their level of sophistication and utility before they continue to add stuff to the game. The axe and the hammer, I think, suffer greatly, not from usability, because the axe and the hammer both have specific reasons for existing. They do have a utility purpose against creatures, but people will not see it that way. The community will see it as lacking in combos, lacking in damage, lacking in ability. It's just a matter of complexity of the weapons, and the complexity of the weapons is currently not there for the hammer or the axe, and it makes them dull and boring to play. And at the end of the day, what's the game about? It's about fun. So there needs to be more fun in the hammer and the axe. Secondly, some of the models for the weapons don't change at all. They look relatively the same. In particular, the chain blades currently only have 2 different models in the game. I hope that is placeholder art. I really do, because it looks like shit. It looks like ass. So basically, I just get different colored weapons. Like, that's it. You just tinted it differently. I hope to God that's placeholder art. If it's not, that's insanely boring. I basically go through the game with the same weapons that I started with all the way to the end of the game. Hope it's placeholder art. It doesn't look like it currently, though. So we'll see. We'll see where that goes. Not high hopes for that, but color palette changes are not a good excuse for, you know, we added a new tier of weapon. It's green colored now instead of gray. Oh, so you guys are just fucking off, basically, is what you're doing over there. Okay, got it. That's my one concern about that. Other than those 2 things, the game feels fine. It's an alpha. Some hitboxes are a little wonky. There are some frame rate hitches. There aren't enough graphical issues. The UI looks like shit currently. Voiceovers sound like they were done in a very echoey hallway with a $15 webcam mic from Walmart. I'm pretty sure that's all placeholder. And the reason why I say that is because the level of quality content within the rest of the game, such as the combat, such as the gathering systems, such as the crafting systems, such as the progression, the questing systems, all of that is a much higher quality than the user interface, than the voiceovers, than the poor art design of weapons. So I imagine that that stuff will come later rather than never. It's kind of the final things that they add into the game as they go, hopefully. That's my hope, anyways. A lot of the stuff is like, yeah, it's an alpha, it's an early access, that'll be replaced. And a lot of the stuff is mostly just presentation sake. Doesn't necessarily matter, especially from a gameplay enjoyment experience, but for a presentation sake it does. Now, for a gameplay enjoyment experience, a few things that do matter are wonky hitboxes. There are definitely some wonky hitboxes. This is an online multiplayer game, and there are dedicated servers from my understanding. So these dedicated servers do shit the bed sometimes. And they do have a lot of latency issues currently. I wouldn't say a lot of latency issues. They're mild to medium latency issues at best. Sometimes it's kind of annoying, and that's about the worst it gets. Because you might get teleported back or not move correctly, and that's about it. Currently, the worst defense for combat is hitboxes of some of the behemoths. Sometimes you'll get stuck inside the hitboxes, and you'll get dragged around. Some animations need some refinement and work. You know, things that are expected in an alpha. It's just expected in an alpha. I don't really knock the game for this. Basically, it just needs a new coat of paint. The game needs some spit and polish. And after that spit and polish, it'd be fine. It'd be great. It'd be better than great. But even without the spit and polish, the game is pretty good as it is. Is it worth the $80? I'll talk about that at the end of the video. But definitely worth the $40 Slayer Pack. The $40 Slayer Pack gets you access September 1st into the closed beta. And access into the September 1st closed beta, I think's worth it. I 100% think is worth it at the moment. Because between now and then, I'm assuming they'll add some new elements. You know, alpha is basically we're done adding content, we're polishing the game. Beta is we're polishing the game until release. And then release, obviously, it's like, now we're just going to add new content. So yeah. It's great. I think $40 Slayer Pack is absolutely where the sweet spot's at currently for most people of what you should spend your money on. Currently, because I don't know how the champion status, the patron status, and the style hunter status are going to pan out, and when those 90 days start, I can't actually say the Founders Pack's worth it or not. Because if it starts during the full release of the game, then yeah, it's worth it. But if they start counting now and they don't have all the content in the game, no, it's not worth it at all, in my opinion. You know, the founder banner and the guild charter and stuff like that, those are novelty items. Because eventually we're going to use a cooler sigil. We're going to use cooler emotes. We're going to use not founder animations. We're going to use whatever looks better later on. There's always something that looks better than the founders, in everyone's opinion. We'll end up using that stuff. That is what'll happen. So that's just novelty items. You know, what you care about is the 90-day patron status, the 90-day champion status, and the 90-day style hunter status. And considering transmog's not even in the game yet, I'm not getting the full use out of what I paid for currently. So, you know, we talked about that. That's where I stand with that. The rest of the game, though, it's fun. It's good. It has a really good progression feel. It has a great combat feel. When they flesh out the weapon system a little bit more, and they are going to add a 5th weapon, the game also has areas that already look like they're ready to have content added to them. There's no cooking system in the game currently. And I say that because there is an area that looks like there will be a cooking NPC that stands right there. It's a marketplace with food and all kinds of other stuff for like basically a grocery store in the middle of the city, but there's no NPCs there whatsoever. So it's kind of like, haha, yeah, that's being patched in later, isn't it? Which is totally fine. The fact that they're adding a cooking system's great. You know, it's an alpha. There's missing content. So I'm sure there's going to be a cooking system later on. And you also walk around and look around the city and you see other places and it's like, that's a really large closed door with a lot of empty space back there. That's a really, really big building with a big door. There's gonna be stuff back there, isn't there? There's a bunch of that all over the place. So there's definitely a ton of areas for them to just add content. Like one day the doors open and there's all this shit inside, and you're like, oh, where'd all this come from? That being said, this game has the potential to really grab an audience. And considering they've already blatantly come out and stated that their microtransactions are going to be all about cosmetic stuff and basically boosts in a player versus enemy or, you know, PvE game, it's great. You're not going to get any advantage over no other player. It's not pay to win. I hope they do stuff like let you customize your shell shits. Yeah, as you come in. I hope they let you get little tiny pets that follow you around that are like mini versions of all the other beasts. I hope they give you cool unique armor sets you can only pay $5 for. You know, there's a ton of things they could do to turn this game into a cash fucking cow. And with as much as I've been playing it right now and enjoying it, I would totally fucking buy into it, like 100%. Just like any other provider of content, their content has to be easy and accessible. And as long as they make it that, as long as they deliver what we like in a timely manner, this game's going to be fantastic. My last big concern before we wrap up this video are two things. One, I don't know how consistently they're going to deliver content in this game. Nobody does, as a matter of fact. They've not even talked about how they're going to consistently deliver content after the game hits full release. Is it going to be every 3 months, 6 months, once a year? What's the plan? Ideally, I think this game should release new content, ideally, in an ideal world, okay? New content every month to 2 months. Now, this isn't an ideal world, but I think a sweet spot that they could probably hit in development cycles is new content every 3 months. If they could add a new zone every 3 months. If they could add, not necessarily a new zone, but 5-10 new creatures and new equipment sets and a couple of things here and there every 3 months. I think that would be the sweet spot for players where they feel like they're constantly getting content and always have a reason to come back to. And then try to do large patches every 6 months to a year that adds a bunch of new content all at once. So because we don't know how consistently the content will be delivered after full release, that is one thing I am slightly worried about. Secondly, we don't know what this developer's like. We've never had a game with this developer before. This is their first real major release that has a lot of people interested. What are their intentions? Now, currently, it looks fine. Currently, microtransactions and everything like that look great, you know? It looks wonderful. I'm fine with it. Everybody else is fine with it, and it seems fair and reasonable. 6 months, a year down the road, leadership can change, new people can come in, old people can go out, and their attitude can become, fuck the customer, how much money can we make if we just drain them dry? That can happen, that can change. Or the mindset of the people working there could currently change of, we're making a good amount of money, but we could make a fuckload more of money. We don't know. We've never experienced anything with this developer before, so for that reason alone, I warrant caution on things like this. Don't go spending money unnecessarily. What I will say is, in the current state of the game, even in its alpha state, even with bugginess, even with, you know, lacking of content in some areas, it's 100% worth that $40 Slayer pack. Easily 20 to 30 hours worth of content in this game. Probably more like 50 to 60 hours, and we still don't have the third zone yet. We only have 2 zones. There are 3 zones total in the game that we know of right now for full release. So maybe 100 hours worth of content just to get to in-game progression. I definitely think it's worth your $40. I don't know that it's worth your $80 currently for that Founders Pack, just because I'm unaware how they're going to treat that, whether the 40 days starts at release or whether it starts now. What are they going to do? They haven't really communicated to us with that yet. But for the $40, I think you're safe, and I think you'll have a lot of fun if you're interested in Monster Hunter style games, and Dauntless is one of those, and it's a good one. Guys, I am Guns. Hope you enjoyed my thoughts on Dauntless. I will end up doing guides and commentary and things like that about this game. It's really interesting to me. I keep digging into it, and there's a bunch of stuff I still don't understand regarding armor and aspects and trees and all that stuff. So you will see guides come out for this game if you're interested in it. Always right here on the Gun Range. I'm going to go ahead and get out of here for today, though. If you'd like to come watch all the action live, you can do so over at twitch.tv/gunsgames. You can support myself and the channel directly over at patreon.com/3gunsdown, clickable on screen at the end of the video. And if you'd like to come listen to me rant, berate, or just talk in general about video games and other things, you can follow me at twitter.com/3gunsdown. It's at 3gunsdown. I'm going to get out of here for today. Thank you guys for watching. Have a good day, everybody. Dauntless, you can get the Slayer Pack access September 1st for $40. That's what I recommend. I'll see you later, guys. GG.